bring on the rabbi here as we move on to the religious component and what the scriptutures are saying in terms of solving this problem of partial justice and bringing on absolute justice and harmony in society. I want to thank Shireen Ahmed, who brought us the rabbi and the police commissioner and Honorable Lord Colonel, all of them. So, but I want to introduce Rabbi Perl, who is the Chabad of Mineola, that he's the director of the Chabad of Mineola and resident rabbi at NYU Langone Mineola Hospital and the Nassau County Jail. So, without further ado, I'd like to bring on the rabbi.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Yes.
We can hear you. Shalom Aleichem.
Aleichem Shalom. Shalom Aleichem. So I want to say first thank you to Nasrim for bringing me inviting me here, and it's a great honor to be part of this evening of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community of the Long Island chapter, and an added honor to be able to be on the same dais with both our county executive, Laura Curran, and our good friend, Commissioner Pat Ryder, Commissioner of the Police Department here. Thank you to all of you. So in my few minutes, I want to share with you some insights to how, according to the theme of this evening, is the establishment of harmony in society. And I want to hopefully begin with a story and end with a story as well. The story is told of two brothers, who the younger one is taller than the older one. So the older one is shorter, and he's bothered by the fact that he's shorter than his younger brother. And one day his younger brother, who's standing by a ditch, he takes the opportunity, and the older one pushes his brother into this ditch. And then he says to him, now look who's taller. The father, who was a rabbi, called them both over and said to the older one, the shorter one, bring me a chair. He brought him a chair. Then he said, stand on the chair. And with that, he said, now tell me, are you taller than your brother? And he went on to tell them that the best way to make yourself bigger is not by putting anybody else down, but to elevate yourself. Bring yourself higher in a more spiritual space, and everything else will follow. And I think when we look at the world today, too much time is being spent by pushing someone else down into the ditches and throwing who knows what, instead of getting on the chair, so to speak, elevating oneself in what you have to share with the world around us. I share this with you as an introduction to this concept that first the pitfalls of differences, and yet how we could work in harmony together. So there is so much conflict in the world today, and there's so much animosity towards the other. And let's consider the facts briefly. The fact is, people are different. And we know that no two minds are the same, or no two faces are the same. If God wanted us all to be the same, He would have created a single human being. But guess what? There's 7.8 billion of us, because that's the divine plan that requires 7.8 billion different individuals. Fact number two is, differences have a tendency to lead to conflict. Look at the world today. 90% of all the conflicts are between groups of people who have a marked difference between them, whether it's race, religion, culture, nationality, level of education, economic class. The differences create an us and them mentality. One group doesn't get the other, and therefore is quick to blame all the other problems on the other. But I'm here to share with you, and I appreciate the opportunity, that it doesn't have to be that way. In fact, differences can also serve as an ingredient for harmony and unity. Think about the multiple flavors in a gourmet dish. Think about the multiple colors of a painting. So how do we go about this? What can we do to make our differences evolve into harmony rather than to devolve into the conflict that we sadly see today? And I'm suggesting there are parallel two approaches to this challenge. One I call the parallel approach, the parallel track, and then I call the reciprocal relationship approach. What do I mean by this? You see, we live in a world that prides itself with terms like pluralism. What does that mean? It means all paths are equal, none is greater, none is better or higher than another. Furthermore, they all share a common goal. So one would expect that ultimately, in this pluralistic kind of approach, this parallel track, there should be unity. But this often fails. It's not really the viable model. Because one of the problems is that different paths may only meet up at the end, at the goal. But until they get there are differences, there's distinctions, and there's no lines of connection between them. So this leaves open and even invites the possibility for alienation and conflict. So in the beginning, in this kind of approach, things look different. Like two cars driving on the LIE, okay, they're both going the same direction, but they're in different cars. Equality reigns. It may even be a mutual respect. We all respect the road that we're on, we're driving together. Now we recognize how each track is independent of each other. I don't need you for anything, you don't need me for anything. Now this may be an okay situation. Some might even think of it as a positive one. But you know what? Our independence from each other can create a state of alienation. We all live in our own bubble, in a closed world, which is disconnected from the other bubbles. We're all very different from each other and don't really understand the other's world. At best, we're tolerating each other because we value the idea of tolerance. So guess what? It eventually falls apart. And all of this dependence develops into an animosity and conflict. So I suggest, dear friends, that let's look at the world in a more reciprocal relationship. In a reciprocal relationship, there's always, by definition, a giver and a recipient. Without give and take, I need something from you and you need something from me, there is really no true relationship. And again, by definition, the giver stands on a higher level. I have something that you want or need, while the recipient occupies the lower station. I lack something that I want and I need from you. In other words, the model requires both humility and generosity. Humility for me to recognize that you have something that I need and to be open to receiving it from you. And generosity to recognize that I have something that you need and to be open to sharing it with you. So in a deeper sense, our purpose, all of us, whoever we may be, our life is to emulate God. And one of the most powerful ways to do that is by giving. When we give to someone, we recognize the common bond between us, our shared status as souls created in the image of God. Every human being, whether red, black, or different religious perspectives than me, is created in the image of God. And this is worthy of our profound respect. When we connect to their inner godliness, we transcend the physical barriers that appear so much to divide us. Giving draws us closer, adding another drop of love and unity between us. This is the bedrock of creating a loving family. It is equally crucial to creating a united nation, or all of us together. Now, I want to emphasize the point. This doesn't mean that we all need to be identical. Rather, unity means showing respect to each other's individuality and appreciating their unique contribution to the collective whole. That's the importance. So even, especially in these challenging times, it's crucial that we build unity amongst ourselves, engaging acts of kindness and showing caring and tolerance to each other, whoever we may be. Very quickly, to look for ways to help. Go out of our way to find someone and to go out of our way to help somebody else, to be patient, to make a commitment each day to help somebody, to give the benefit of the doubt, something which is missing these days. We don't know the other person until we've been in their shoes. Everyone has their own challenges. We have to be very careful to give the person the benefit of the doubt and appreciate when they come up and explain. Let's not be so judgmental. Another way of giving is to focus on the positive. So much negativity going on today. We all have our bad days when we're tense and disappointed. But why come out in criticism or some other ways? We can flip it upside down and find a positive way to find the positivity in what we may be doing and how to upload it. Respecting of elders. Today everything is the social media, but you know what? Elderly people have what to give. And that's the key to our world today, to respect the elders. And guess what? In the Jewish tradition, someone is considered at the age of 80 as the peak of their spiritual strength, the prime of their life when they're 80 years old. And that's an important part that we must also include today. And of course, before I conclude my story, is to share wisdom. One of the greatest gifts that we all have is to share wisdom. As I said before, we can elevate the world by getting up on the chair. We don't have to waste time throwing things at others, so to speak, or whatever it may be. Just elevate ourselves by sharing wisdom. We automatically going to get up on the chair, so to speak, and to be able to share goodness and to be able to bring goodness and kindness to this world. So, unfortunately, human nature seems prone to attack what is different, whether it be a difference in the color of skin, the type of clothing, or the ideas that they may espouse. If we are to learn to value others, we must be constantly aware that the differences really are only revealing us, each of us, to a facet of truth that we may have missed in the course of our life. And now I conclude with a story, a very, very favorite story of mine. It happened many years ago with Arturo Toscanini. Right? He led concerts all over the world. One of the most acclaimed musicians in the 19th and 20th century. And he had a biographer who used to come to him from time to time to interview him. And one time he said, I'm going to be in town. I'd like to interview you. He said, you can't come tonight. He said, why not? He says, because I'm going to be listening to a concert overseas on shortwave radio. He said, well, let me just come and sit there. I won't say a word. He said, okay, come, join me. So they listened to this concert through the shortwave radio. And at the end, he says, the biographer says, that was fantastic. That was amazing. And Toscanini said, not really. He said, why not? He said, there were supposed to be 120 musicians, including 15 violinists, and only 14 of them were playing. So the biographer couldn't believe this. What are you talking about? He's listening to this on the shortwave radio 6,000 miles away. How does he know there's someone missing? Well, he wanted to check it out himself. He called up the orchestra, wherever it was in the world. Maybe it was in England. And he said, tell me, was everybody there that night? Was everybody was supposed to be playing? He said, so the concert hall director said, you know what, in truth, there were supposed to be 120 musicians and 15 violinists, but only 14 showed up. So the biographer was amazed. He turns to Toscanini. He says, I owe you an apology. I thought you were making it up. But tell me, how did you know that one violinist was missing? He said, there's a difference between you and me. You're part of the audience. Audience, okay, sounds wonderful. But I'm the conductor. And the conductor knows when every note is needed and has to be played. And when I realized a certain note was missing, I knew it was because there was a violinist missing. Think deeply about this story, dear friends, that you and me and all of us are really musicians in the grand symphony of history. And an average person doesn't make a difference whether we live or we're not there, whatever. But the truth is, to the conductor, the Almighty God of the World Symphony knows of every note that every single one of us, whether we look like this or like that, whatever it may be, God appreciates the unique note that only you can produce in your life. And to Him, to the Almighty God, it makes a grand difference that every one of us, with our differences, complement each other in the different ways that it's spelt. So I say, thank you for the opportunity. God has faith in us. Let's have faith in ourselves and appreciating each other's differences and to learn from each other. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for speaking, Honorable Rabbi. There was a lot of great points in that speech. I enjoyed it very much, especially the peak is at 80. That is great. I will let my parents, they're already on the Zoom call here, they're here live, but I will let them know the peak